He's standing at the edge of everything he's ever avoided. He feels the pull. He knows this isn't ordinary, but something inside him still resists. Why? Because before the divine masculine can step into union, he must face the one thing he's never truly confronted: his own fear of love. This is the final test, the one that shakes his ego, the one that strips the masks, the one that asks, will you keep running from what your soul already knows, or will you finally believe? Have you felt it? That strange heaviness in the field, the silence that feels louder than ever. It's not distance, it's preparation. Watch now to understand what this final test means, and how the divine feminine can stay rooted in truth as he learns to choose what's real. He's not lost. He's being tested. He's gone quiet again. You feel the shift, not in his words, but in his absence, in the weight of the energy, in the way your body tightens, your intuition stirs, and everything in you whispers, something's happening. But here's the truth most don't see. He's not lost. He's being tested, not by you, not by life, but by his own soul. Because before the divine masculine can truly say yes to this connection, before he can believe in the twin flame journey, not just in spirit, but in embodiment, he must walk through a gate. And that gate looks like silence, like distance, like resistance. But what it really is a mirror that shows him everything he still fears about love, losing control, surrendering to something he can't explain, being fully seen without the armor, failing to live up to what you saw in him. This is the final test, and it doesn't look dramatic. It looks internal. It feels like pressure. It feels like chaos wrapped in stillness. It's the part of the path where the soul is louder than the mind, but the ego is still clinging to the wheel. And this is where many divine masculines waver. Not because they don't love you, not because they don't feel it, but because they've never had to stand inside a love that demands truth over performance. He's being asked by his own evolution to choose, to stop hiding behind logic, to stop intellectualizing the connection, to stop waiting for a better time. And the soul doesn't test with cruelty, it tests with revelation. It brings up the wound, it highlights the fracture, it shows him the cracks in everything he thought was safe, and it asks, are you ready to let the false fall away so the real can finally rise? You, as the feminine, might feel like nothing is moving, but what's happening in his field is massive. He's confronting the one thing he's avoided through every cycle of separation, believing believing in something that doesn't follow rules, believing in a connection that breaks every framework he was taught to trust, believing that love this deep isn't weakness, it's power, and that belief doesn't happen in a flash. It happens in the fire, in the confusion, in the still moments, when nothing outside makes sense, but everything inside is screaming for truth. This is not regression. This is the moment before clarity, before choice, before alignment. He's not lost. He's not retreating. He's standing in front of a door only he can open, and the handle is made of everything he was told to fear: vulnerability, trust, surrender, depth. You can't open it for him. You can't reach through the field and pull him through, but you can feel it. You can sense it, and more importantly, you can hold your own vibration steady as he decides whether he's ready to walk through it. Because once he does, everything changes. Have you felt this energy shift? Like something deep is building even in silence? Share in the comments. Your knowing may be the reflection another soul needs to trust. This isn't the end. It's the test before the beginning. What this final test actually reveals about his readiness. He thought he had time to figure it out, time to be ready, time to wait until the chaos inside him quieted. But this final test doesn't wait for convenience. It arrives when his soul is ready, not his ego. And the closer he gets to truth, the louder the friction becomes. That's how it works. When the soul prepares for alignment, the old structures don't collapse peacefully. They resist. They fight. They demand to be heard one last time. And this is exactly what the masculine is facing. This test isn't about proving his worth. It's about revealing his readiness. Because union isn't just a moment of connection. It's a vibration. It asks for integrity. It asks for presence. It asks for him to let go of the versions of himself that were built to survive, not to love. And here's what this test reveals most. Does he trust what he feels more than what he fears? Because the closer he gets to the soul-level bond, the more every unresolved wound rises to the surface. Old shame, guilt, fear of failure, unworthiness, stories like, "I'm not enough for this kind of love. She's better off without me. I'll only hurt her again. What if I mess it up?" These aren't just thoughts. They are vibrational blocks. Echoes of every time he was told love would abandon him if he wasn't perfect. And now, faced with a love that sees through all of that, he's frozen, not because he doesn't feel it, but because he does. This is where the test goes deeper. It's not, do you want her? It's, are you ready to be seen by her, fully, honestly, without armor? Because true union doesn't let him keep his masks. It asks for the raw, the real, the soft core he's kept hidden behind strength and silence. That's what this test is burning through. The illusion that he has to be ready before he's worthy. The lie that love is something to earn, not something to remember. You may be wondering why he seems to pull back right as things begin to feel closer. This is why. The field is activating, the vibration is rising, and his soul is standing at the threshold, trembling not because of doubt, but because of magnitude, because what he feels is real. Because this time, it isn't a temporary rush, it's a soul recognition. And that kind of recognition doesn't just pull him toward you, it pulls him into himself. So if he's silent now, if he's confused, distant, or even acting like he doesn't care, look deeper. The test is happening, and in that pressure, something sacred is unfolding, a reckoning, a confrontation, a quiet decision that says, I will no longer run from what I feel. I will no longer abandon myself just to feel safe. That's the moment when the masculine becomes truly ready, not when he has a perfect plan, not when all the fear is gone, but when he's finally willing to walk through the fear, because the cost of not doing so has become too high. Have you felt this threshold in him? The moment when fear rises right before truth breaks through? Let us know in the comments. Your clarity might help another soul trust that silence doesn't always mean retreat. Sometimes it's the final pause before rebirth. Inside him, two voices are growing louder. One says, this is too much, too intense, too risky. The other whispers, you know this is real. You've always known. This is not a casual hesitation. This is a war, a sacred war, not against you, but within himself. Because the masculine at this stage is caught between two realities. The ego, which was built to protect him from pain, and the soul, which is guiding him straight into the fire of transformation. The ego tells him, stay safe. Stick to what you know. Control the outcome. Don't let anyone see your wounds. Real men don't feel this much. It promises stability, but only through suppression. It defines love by rules and roles, not resonance. But the soul is different. The soul doesn't offer comfort. It offers truth. It says, feel, let go, be seen. Surrender. Choose what aligns, not what pleases. And right now, these two forces are colliding in him with full force. That's why he feels torn, why he may ghost, then linger, why he may open up one day and shut down the next, why he feels pulled toward you and simultaneously terrified of what that pull will demand of him. Because deep down, he knows if he says yes to this journey, he can't go back. He can't keep pretending. He can't keep performing. He can't keep living by stories that once kept him safe, but now only make him feel small. This is the sacred tension every awakened masculine must face, and it often happens quietly, in moments no one sees, in car rides, in showers, in the silence before sleep, in dreams he doesn't speak about, in memories he can't escape. There, the ego tries to pull him back into logic, tries to convince him that this connection is too much, too intense, too inconvenient, too unknown. But the soul doesn't argue, it just vibrates. And he feels it. He feels it in the parts of his life that no longer make sense. He feels it in the restlessness that no distraction can numb. He feels it in the presence of your energy, even when you're gone. And that's what drives him toward choice. Because the ego can only hold power as long as he stays asleep. But now, he's waking up to how much he buried, waking up to how long he's lived on autopilot, waking up to the fact that every time he denied the soul's truth, he lost a little more of himself. And what he feels with you, the depth, the fire, the recognition, is not fantasy. It's the soul trying to bring him home. But the journey home asks for courage. And courage for the masculine is not about fighting externally. It's about laying down the sword internally. It's about choosing to be raw, to feel what he's spent a lifetime avoiding, to trust a love that doesn't follow rules, but transforms everything it touches. This is not easy, but it's necessary. And every divine feminine who has watched this battle unfold from afar knows this isn't a rejection of love. It's a battle to reclaim the capacity to love. Have you witnessed this battle in him, the pull toward you, and the fear of what it means? Let us know in the comments. Your insight might be the light another feminine needs to keep holding steady, while his soul learns to win the war within. He may not say it. He may not text, call, or make a grand gesture. But if you're tuned in, if you're feeling the field, you know something's shifting, because even without words, the pull is stronger than ever. He's not reaching out, but he's present. He's not beside you, but he's everywhere. And no, you're not imagining it. Because the truth is, when the masculine is approaching the final threshold, when the soul begins to break through the noise, you can feel him before you see him. There are signs, not always external, but unmistakable. You start waking up thinking of him, not with pain, but with knowing. You feel waves of emotion that aren't yours. You dream of him again, not as fantasy, but as communication. This is resonance, and resonance always precedes return, because his soul is moving toward you, not through action yet, but through vibration. So what are the real signs he's feeling the pull? 1. He becomes emotionally restless. He doesn't feel at home in his own life anymore. What once satisfied him now feels dull. He starts to question everything: his relationships, his path, his purpose. And the deeper truth behind that restlessness: you. Not because you represent escape, but because you represent alignment. 2. He gets triggered by things that remind him of you: music, places, people who carry your essence. He reacts, sometimes with silence, sometimes with sadness, sometimes with unexplained anger. But the reaction is real, and it reveals what he hasn't released. 3. He withdraws, not to forget, but to feel. This is the paradox. The closer he gets to you vibrationally, the more he pulls back in the 3D. Why? Because being near you, even in memory, opens him. And opening is terrifying when he's spent his life being closed. So he goes silent, not to disconnect, but to survive the intensity. 4. He begins to revisit your connection in his mind, not just nostalgically, but with different eyes. He starts to see what he couldn't before: the depth, the love, the parts of himself that you awakened. And though he may not act on it right away, the reflection is happening. 5. He energetically lingers. You feel him in your chest, in your breath, in sudden waves of heat, stillness, or emotion. He may not be sending messages, but his energy is knocking at your door. And here's what's important to understand. He's not doing this on purpose. He's not playing with your emotions. He's being pulled by the part of him that finally remembers the truth you carry, remembers the love that didn't ask for perfection, remembers the version of himself that was more real when he stood next to you. This pull isn't about romantic craving. It's about soul alignment. And when that alignment starts to activate, nothing in the external world can satisfy him anymore. So even if he doesn't reach out, even if he stays quiet for now, Don't underestimate the movement beneath the silence. He's not forgetting you. He's returning to himself. And you were always part of that path home. Have you felt these signs in the field? The energetic weight, the sudden presence, the shift in vibration? Let us know in the comments. Sometimes naming the resonance makes the truth even clearer. He doesn't have to speak for you to know he's feeling it. Why some masculines collapse right before union. He's closer than ever. You feel it. Something in the field has shifted. The resistance has softened. The silence feels full, not empty. The distance no longer feels like disconnection, but preparation. And then he collapses. He pulls away, shuts down, disappears. Or worse, he sabotages everything. Why does this happen? Why do some masculines seem to break just as union is within reach? Here's the truth. Because getting close to real love breaks what was never real inside of them. When the divine masculine is right at the edge of alignment, his soul begins to vibrate with a truth his ego never prepared for. A truth that says, "This is it. This is what you came for." But to step into it, you have to let go of everything that isn't you. And that's terrifying, because he's not just being asked to say yes to you. He's being asked to say no to every story that kept him safe. I'm not enough. I don't deserve this kind of love. If I let her in, I'll lose myself. Vulnerability will destroy me. These stories are old. Some aren't even his. They're inherited from generations of men taught to survive, not to feel. But now they're crumbling, and when they crumble, the masculine doesn't always rise, at least not right away. He collapses, not because he's weak, not because he doesn't want it, but because he was never taught how to receive love this deep without trying to control or earn it. And that's the final threshold. To stand in front of divine love and realize, I don't have to perform. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be real. That realization is beautiful, but also destabilizing. It shakes his foundation. It threatens everything he built his identity on. It exposes how much of his life was designed around protection, not expression. So what looks like regression is often the purging of false structure. It's his ego losing grip. It's the shadow surfacing. It's the body reacting to a vibration it craves but doesn't know how to hold yet. And yes, it can look messy. He might lash out. He might run. He might go silent. He might fall into old patterns just to feel familiar again. But don't mistake the collapse for failure. It's not the end, it's the initiation. Because after the collapse, comes clarity. And with clarity, he finally sees that the love wasn't pressure, that her presence was safety, not threat, that what he feared wasn't her, it was being seen and still loved. That's what union requires. And sometimes a man must fall apart before he realizes the version of him that couldn't handle this love was never real. Have you witnessed this kind of collapse, where the masculine pulls away right before something deeper awakens? Share in the comments. You may help another woman understand that sometimes what looks like distance is just the ego dying right before the soul rises. He's breaking open. You can feel it, not through words or gestures, but in the energy. Heavy, raw, chaotic. You sense his pain. You feel his confusion, and every part of your heart wants to reach for him. But this is the moment where the awakened feminine must remember your role is presence, not rescue. Because the old you might have run to fix it, to explain, to hold space for him while abandoning yourself. You might have softened your truth, shrunk your power, dimmed your light just to meet him in his shadows. But not this time, not in this stage of the journey. Because true divine union doesn't ask the feminine to sacrifice her center. It asks her to anchor it. Yes, he's collapsing. Yes, he's lost in the noise of his own undoing. But he needs to walk through that alone. Not because you don't love him, but because you do. Rescuing him would only delay his transformation. Comforting his ego would only reinforce the illusion. And trying to guide his process would only steal the lesson his soul came here to learn. So what do you do instead? You stay in your body, you breathe, you feel your own emotions. You hold compassion, but not responsibility. Because this isn't about him catching up to you. It's about you staying rooted in the vibration that called his soul forward in the first place. And that vibration wasn't control. It wasn't fixing. It was embodiment. You became the mirror, not by trying to wake him up, but by choosing to live your truth, regardless of whether he followed. And that truth still stands, even now, even in his collapse, even in his silence. So instead of asking, "How can I help him?" ask, "How can I deepen into me?" Because your groundedness is what stabilizes the field. Your stillness is what speaks loudest to his soul. Your choice to keep walking, not away, but forward, is what shows him this love isn't based on need. It's based on alignment. And alignment doesn't chase. It doesn't beg. It doesn't shrink. It invites. It holds. It is. He will feel that, even from a distance, especially from a distance. And when he does, he'll face the real choice to meet you there or stay where truth can't breathe. Either way, you are free, because the feminine doesn't lose her power when the masculine falters. She magnifies it, not with force, not with silence games, but with presence so rooted, the only possible response is awakening. Have you recently chosen to stay grounded instead of reaching out, to stay in your center instead of rescuing? Share your experience in the comments. Your strength may be the reflection another woman needs to remember. Holding love doesn't mean holding weight. It means holding your own light. The test is a gate, not a wall. It feels like everything has stopped. He's not moving, he's not speaking, and even though the energy feels closer than ever, he's still on the other side. You ask yourself, is this it? Is this how the story ends? But this silence, this space, this aching pause is not the end. It's the gate. This is the final test, the place where his ego unravels, where the stories fall apart, where the old survival patterns scream one last time before fading. And gates don't open with force. They open with readiness. The masculine doesn't need more proof. He doesn't need convincing. He doesn't need more time. He needs to choose. Not you, not the future, but himself, his truth, his soul, his path back to the love he always knew, but never thought he deserved. And that choice can't be rushed. It can't be manipulated. It can't be spiritually managed. It must rise from within him. That's why this moment is so sacred, because it reveals everything. Not through contact, but through energy, through how steady you remain, through how much you've stopped waiting and started living, through how deeply you trust that union doesn't come from pressure, but from vibrational coherence. This is not about letting go of love. It's about letting go of the version of love that needed to be saved, because the real union was never meant to be chased. It was meant to be met. And right now, he is either meeting you in frequency or facing the parts of himself that still can't. But the gate is open, and whether he walks through it or not, you've already crossed, because you no longer live in illusion. You live in truth, and that truth is magnetic. So if he does rise, if he does choose, it won't be because you waited, begged, or fixed. It will be because you became. You became the embodiment of the very love he needed to believe in. The proof that depth doesn't destroy. The presence that holds without holding on. the mirror that reflects, not what he fears, but what he is capable of becoming. So now, let him face the gate. Let him stand in his own silence. Let him walk, not toward you, but toward himself. Because this journey was never about being chosen. It was about choosing your own alignment again and again until love no longer had to be earned, only met. Have you reached this gate too? The point where you stopped pushing and started trusting? Let us know in the comments. Your awareness may help another soul realize this test isn't rejection, it's invitation.